Ever get that feeling? Like you wish you had a better grasp on your finances, like where's it all going? I think we all want to feel more in control of our money, right?
Absolutely. It's a common desire, for sure.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. Some really fundamental financial planning methods, stuff that can actually help you feel more on top of things.
I like that you said fundamental because we're not talking about anything super complicated or fancy here.
Exactly. It's about getting back to basics.
Yeah, the core principles, the
Yeah,
essential building blocks that anyone can use to build a stronger financial foundation, really.
right. And we've actually got this great resource we're looking at today. It's called Sending a Bill Call.
Catch your title.
Yeah. Well, it translates to financial planning tips for beginners.
Okay, makes sense.
So it highlights 5 key methods and our mission for this deep dive. Well, we really want to break these down into practical steps for you, our listeners.
Love it. Actionable strategies.
Yeah, things you can actually start using right away to manage your finances more effectively and without feeling overwhelmed.
It's about making it feel manageable, not scary.
Exactly. So the first thing this resource really emphasizes, getting a handle on debt.
Makes sense. That's often the biggest source of stress for people.
It is. And it stresses the importance of understanding your current debt, like really identifying all your debts and figuring out which ones are costing you the most.
Okay, so it's about prioritizing.
Yeah. Like those high interest debts, think credit cards, maybe some personal loans.
The interest can be a killer on those.
Oh, it really can. It compounds against you and makes it so hard to get ahead.
Like you're constantly trying to run up a down escalator.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But just as important as tackling existing debt, making sure you're not taking on more.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to stop the bleeding, so to speak.
Right. If you're in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging.
Love that analogy. And I think it ties into that feeling of being overwhelmed that we talked about.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Because each new debt, it just adds another layer of pressure and complexity.
Right. So step one, stop adding to the debt pile.
You got it. All right, so our source then goes on to talk about creating something called income expense accounts, which honestly sounds a bit formal. What does that actually look like in everyday life?
Well, it's all about awareness, becoming aware of your financial flow, really understanding how much is coming in, your income, and where it's all going out, your expenses.
But we're talking about actually tracking everything.
Yeah. The resource emphasizes recording both sides of the equation, both income and expenses.
So like your regular paycheck to that latte you grab every morning.
Yep, all of it. Streaming subscriptions, that weekly grocery haul, the whole picture.
Okay, gotta be honest, that sounds like it could be a lot to keep track of.
I hear you. It can feel a bit daunting at first,
Yeah.
but the insights you get from this process, they're so valuable.
How so?
Well, when you actually see the whole picture, you can analyze your spending habits. Where is your money actually going each month?
I can already see myself being surprised.
Oh, you probably will be. You might find you're spending a surprising amount on things that you don't even really care that much about, or things you don't even use anymore, or maybe areas where you could cut back without really impacting your lifestyle.
It's like shining a light on those little leaks and drains in your spending.
Exactly. And the goal here is to get a handle on that. The source
Yeah.
puts it as improving your financial efficiency. It's about being more mindful, more intentional.
It's about making sure your money is really working for you, not the other way around.
Exactly. And you know what? There are so many easy ways to do this these days. You've got basic spreadsheet apps on your phone, and then there are the budgeting apps that actually automate a lot of this tracking for you.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be as tedious as maybe it sounds.
Not at all. Okay, so we've talked about stopping the creation of new debt, we're tracking our spending. What's next?
Okay, so the third method our source talks about is save before spending. This one always catches my attention. What's that really mean?
This is where we start to shift our mindset a bit. Instead of saving what's left at the end of the month, this method flips that on its head. The source clearly says to deduct savings immediately when you receive income.
Interesting. So it's like paying yourself first
Yeah.
before anything
Yeah,
else.
precisely. Like it's a non-negotiable bill. And there's even a recommended starting point.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it suggests aiming to save 10% of your income right off the bat. And then if you can, increase it to 20% over time.
For some people, 10% might already sound like a lot.
It might. But even starting small and being consistent makes a huge difference.
It's about building that habit.
Exactly. And there's a real psychological benefit to seeing your savings grow early on. It reinforces that positive financial behavior.
It feels good to see those savings building up.
It does. And you know, if you wait till the end of the month, life happens, and often there's just not much left to save.
Oh, I've been there so many times. Unexpected expenses pop up, and poof, there goes the money I was hoping to save.
Right. But if you've already set aside that 10% at the beginning, you're consistently building that cushion, regardless of what surprises come up later.
So it kind of guarantees that saving actually happens. I like it. Okay, so we're making saving a priority. We're addressing debt. We're tracking our spending.
Hmm.
What else have we got?
Well, the next piece of the puzzle, according to our source, is setting financial goals.
Oh, that's a good one. So we're not just saving for the sake of saving.
Exactly. It's about giving your savings a purpose, a direction. The source highlights allocating your savings based on specific goals.
Okay, so what kind of goals are we talking about?
It could be anything, really. It's personal. The resource gives a few examples, like building an emergency fund, saving for investments, maybe a travel fund for a dream vacation, or planning for retirement.
So instead of just vaguely saving for the future, you're actually saying, okay, this chunk is specifically for a down payment on a house, or this is going towards my emergency fund so I can breathe a little easier.
Exactly. And having that specific intention, it makes a huge difference in actually achieving those goals.
I bet it does.
It really does, because it gives you something tangible to work towards. Like, you're much more likely to stick to your savings plan when you have a clear goal in mind, something that really matters to you.
Makes sense. It's way more motivating than just having a vague idea of saving for someday.
Right. And the source also mentions that it helps build security. Like, knowing you have that emergency fund, that can make a big difference in how secure you feel.
Peace of mind.
Absolutely. And then it provides a clearer roadmap for your financial planning.
So you actually know what you're working towards.
Yeah. It's like having a destination in mind when you set out on a journey.
Yeah.
You're much more likely to get there if you know where you're going.
Okay, I'm liking this. We're saving with a clear purpose. We're making progress. All right, so the fifth and final method our source talks about is invest for growth. This is where a lot of people, especially if they're new to this whole financial planning thing, might start to feel a little intimidated.
And that's understandable. But our resource is really good about acknowledging that. It makes it clear that this step comes after you've established that consistent saving habit.
Okay, so it's not the first thing you jump into.
Not at all. It's the next logical step after you've got that foundation in place. And it's about potentially increasing the value of your savings over the long term.
So going beyond just what you might earn in a regular savings account.
Right. And it lists all sorts of different investment options like fixed deposits, mutual funds, stocks, even things like gold and real estate.
Wow, that's quite a range. So for someone who's just starting out, where do they even begin?
Well, that's where the advice in our source is so important. It stresses that you need to study information carefully before making any investment decisions. Don't just jump in blindly.
It's about being informed.
Exactly. And each of those investment options has its own, characteristics, its own level of risk, its own potential for return.
So fixed deposits, for example.
Yeah.
Those are generally considered lower risk.
Right. Yeah, they tend to offer more stable returns, but maybe not as high as some other options.
And then you've got stocks, which are more, well, unpredictable.
Stocks represent ownership in a company, and they can offer the potential for much higher growth. But they also come with more volatility, more risk.
So it's really about understanding your own risk tolerance and your financial goals.
Exactly. And our resource doesn't go into a ton of detail about each specific type of investment,
That makes sense.
but it really emphasizes the importance of doing your homework, like learning about the different options, understanding the risks involved, and then figuring out what makes sense for you.
And of course, this comes after you've already got that solid savings foundation in place.
Absolutely. Our source is very clear about that. Okay, so just to recap for everyone, we've explored these 5 fundamental financial planning methods. We talked about stopping the creation of new debt, tracking your spending, saving before you spend, setting clear financial goals, and then exploring investing for growth. But crucially, only after you've got that good savings foundation.
It's not about getting rich, quick schemes or anything like that.
Not at all. This is about building a solid, sustainable financial future.
And these are practical, actionable steps. Like you could literally start with number 1 today by making the decision to avoid taking on new debt.
Exactly. Small steps, big impact over time. So for all of you listening, here's something to think about. Out of these 5 methods, which one feels like it would make the biggest positive impact for you right now? If you could start implementing just one today, which one would it be? And then what's one financial goal that really speaks to you, that could motivate you to get started on this journey? That's what we want you to ponder as you continue to explore how to become more financially informed and empowered.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.